Good morning, everybody. I hope you've had a wonderful conference so far and enjoyed the party last night. My name is Laszlo Simity. I am the EMEA Technical Services Manager at Source Labs. I'm based here in London, so it's been a privilege and honour to welcome so many of my colleagues and fellow testers from across the world to our home city. I hope the rain hasn't put too many of you off. I've just got 10 minutes with you this morning, and I'm just going to talk to you about a topic that is very common at the moment. I'm getting asked about this by organisations and people across Europe as I travel around, and that's really about mobile web testing. Now, we're at a Selenium conf, and so I'm going to make a wild guess and say that practically everybody here is involved in some way in testing web applications, right? And so as mobile kind of continues its kind of march, it's clearly a question that is on many of our minds about how we can start approaching testing our applications on mobile browsers. And the kind of options here can be extremely bamboozling and complicated. So I just wanted to kind of break that down a little bit for you and talk to you about some options that we think you should consider. But before we do that, I want to rewind to the good old days. It's the year 2000. Computers looked a bit like that, apparently. Mine never looked quite that exciting. I was a web developer. I'd just come out of university. And we had to develop for two main browsers, Netscape and Internet Explorer. 100% of our web traffic came from desktops. Practically all of those desktops were Windows machines, right? Y2K had not ravaged the planet as we had feared, thanks to so much hard work from everybody. It didn't feel like the good old days, right? As a web developer, it felt really hard, right? We had lots of forks in our code. If Netscape do this, if IE do that. But if we compare it to the situation today, in fact, it seems quite simple. We have an incredibly complex situation today. We have at least 5 main browsers. Browsers are now, our web traffic is now sort of half from desktops, half from mobiles. The desktop market itself is also kind of more heterogeneous and fragmented. Windows, Mac is now a very serious player there. We've got Linux, we've got other things. If we just look at mobile, we have an incredibly fragmented market. We have a bunch from Android, a bunch on iOS. Even on Android, we have this situation where no individual version commands more than 19% of the market. And for those that aren't familiar, the version of Chrome on your Android machine on your Android device, I should say, is related to the version of Android that you're running. So as kind of people involved in testing web applications, this is an incredibly complex and difficult scenario for us to navigate. Now, we're all here at Selenium Conf again, as I was saying. So many of you will have Selenium scripts that automate the testing of your web application. And with the advent of Appium, also implementing the WebDriver protocol, in fact, it's very easy to take your existing Selenium script and make a few changes for the driver instantiation to actually run your script on a mobile device or on a browser on a mobile device. But there are also challenges involved in doing this, and it becomes rapidly rather more complex when you consider that you also have 3 options on how to execute your existing scripts on a mobile web browser. Now, a very common scenario that people use is this browser emulation. This is where you go into the Chrome developer tools and you drop down that little I think it's called the mobile toolbar, and you can select some common devices. And Chrome makes it look a little bit like you're on an iPhone or on a Google Pixel. But at the end of the day, it's still your desktop Chrome. Just happens to look a little bit like a mobile device. The second option we have is a simulator or an emulator. These are a full mobile operating system that runs on your laptop using simulated hardware. And the final option is a real device. So you can also execute your test on a real device on a mobile web browser. So you've got lots of these options. You've also got thousands of different possible device models and operating system versions to use. So how do you go about working out what you should do to test your application? Well, I think the first thing you need to do is understand what's really different between these different models of operation. And there's a few differences listed at the top there. Performance. There's some minor differences in code base, for example, related to CPU and architectural differences between, say, a real device on an iPhone, a real device, say, iPhone, or a desktop browser. Minor feature variations, which are quite well documented, and also a lack of hardware, though this is probably not much of a concern for web tests. And so the question that I'm asked very commonly is, hey, we test our mobile website using resized Chrome windows. That should be good enough, shouldn't it? Well, the answer is kind of complicated. Google actually says themselves that you should not rely on testing your mobile website on a resized Chrome window. They actually say that you should use it only as a first-order approximation of how your page looks and feels. And if you want to get that proper confidence and validation, you should be using real devices. But there's other considerations that we also need to make about what environments we should be testing our mobile website on. Are the environments reliable and consistent? Are we going to get the same results every time? Are they available? If you're trying to test on a real device plugged in via a USB cable to your laptop, that's clearly not a very scalable solution. What about cost? Do we want to make sure that a solution for our mobile web testing is going to be feasible? We want to make sure that we're not all stuck with making sure that we have iPhones of different versions sitting around the office. We don't want that management overhead. And finally, we also need to make sure that our test executions are happening as quickly as we need them to happen. And that's particularly important when we consider practices like CI/CD. So what would we actually recommend? So I would say that no single solution is going to be sufficient here. Early on in our cycle, if we look at our kind of development pipeline, throughout that development pipeline, different things are important at different stages. So early on, ease of use and speed is more important. So if you're developing a web app, you just need something to work really quickly that's on your laptop. So the Chrome DevTools option is very valid. But as we move further towards deployment, we need to make sure that our web applications actually work in the real environments that our users will use to access it. And so validation becomes more important. And so we kind of look at a picture like this, where early on in our development cycle, used resized desktop browser windows, use the Chrome developer tools, resize a window in your standard Selenium script using the browser resize command. As we move, though, further towards test and deployment, we need to be testing our mobile websites more and more on real devices to get full validation of what our actual users will experience when they access our application. And with that, I'd like to conclude my very quick talk this morning. I hope everybody has visited us at the booth in the expo hall. If you haven't, please feel free to drop by and get what's left of our little sore spots and other bits and pieces and have a chat. And with that, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.